everyone. Welcome to Design and Invest. I am your host, William John Raitt. Today we are going to be interviewing Darryl White. He's a developer here in Los Angeles, as well as one of my mentors, and we're going to be talking about a whole gamut of things. This is one of his development deals. This is a small lot, 11 units in Mid-City, and let's go in and talk to Darryl. All right, I am sitting here with the famous Darryl White. He is a big developer here in Los Angeles, real estate investor, and just overall businessman. One of the smartest people I know, and also one of the most motivated people I know. And, you know, thank God he is also one of my mentors and one of my best clients as well. But I really appreciate you doing this for me and just sort of talking to my people, my fans, and just giving me your time.
All right.
So let's jump in, man. Who is Darryl White? What is your origin story?
Origin story?
Yeah.
Grew up here in Los Angeles, out in the combination of Crenshaw District till I was 12. Then moved out to Palos Verdes when I was 12 and went to high school out in Palos Verdes. Went to college at UC Santa Barbara.
So did I. Go Gauchos?
Go Gauchos. Great school.
Yeah, it was fun.
Went to law school at went to law school at University of Michigan, and then became a lawyer for 10 years, did real estate law.
You were a lawyer for that long, huh? 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Real estate law?
Got a lot of experience.
How did you, or when did you realize you were an entrepreneur, or do you even consider yourself an entrepreneur?
I definitely consider myself an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Absolutely. Probably knew that I had entrepreneurial leanings as a teenager.
Okay, so you just sort of were doing things that were just different than others, and you realized that, like, okay, I'm not built the same as other people, and I see things differently.
Yeah. I think sometimes you do the opposite of what your parents do. So my parents were very stable.
Okay.
And my dad was an engineer, stayed with the same company his entire career, retired there. And my mom was a school teacher and stayed being a school teacher her entire livelihood. And
wow.
It just seemed to me that was kind of a boring way to go.
Yeah.
And so the entrepreneurial thing seemed different and exciting, and it seemed like you could control your own destiny more and get into some exciting ventures.
So why did you choose real estate law? Like that's
college.
Interesting. Oh, you went to college
No, during college I chose real estate law. UC Santa Barbara was a good experience, and I think I wanted to prolong college.
How long did you stay at UCSB?
4 years.
4 years? Okay, yeah. I was in there. I transferred, but I was just on 2 years. I just smoked the rest.
Yeah.
Most of my friends, though, they stayed
They're on the 6-year.
They're on the 10-year
hardcore party plan.
Oh yeah, UCSB is one of those colleges where you can get caught up really easily, and there's a lot of distractions, and you have to be focused and have to be sort of driven to want to be there. But it's one of the most beautiful campuses. The beach is right there. I mean, the women are beautiful. I mean, everything about Santa Barbara and downtown and State Street.
Like Club Med comes to UC.
It feels pretty fun,
University
man.
of California, yeah.
Yeah, in the air there, I mean, everything is just different. You really feel like you're not, you know, I'm from LA, and being out there, you just feel different. But you're actually from a beach city too, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're used to it. What are some traits and habits of a successful entrepreneur that you've seen from people you sort of you rub shoulders with, and just yourself, or?
Okay, yeah, good question. What I would say is you've got to have a habit of building a strong network. By definition, I think entrepreneurs are doing something that's out of the norm. Mm-hmm. If you're just copying a formula out of a textbook, usually it doesn't work, because you're doing something that's been done before, and there's probably whoever's done it before is bigger and got it perfected more than you do.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurs are finding, sort of taking what's been done and adding a little bit of their own personal twist to whatever's been done. And I think you've got to be a person that's got some vision. You've got to definitely have a lot of motivation. You don't have a boss that's, you know, telling you what to do and giving you orders. You're the boss.
Have you ever, I mean, when you did law, were you working for a firm, or did you have your own practice?
I worked for a law firm. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you like taking orders, or taking, you know, like, did you fall into that groove okay, or was that something that you just sort of, you know, that was one of the deciding factors of you sort of going on your own, or?
Good question.
Yeah, because I have a problem with every job I've ever had. It's been like a sales job or something that's very independent to the sort of norm in the system and all.
Actually, I would say I was a real estate attorney. Probably one of the most independent jobs you could actually have.
That's true.
So you have your own work that you get done, and as a matter of fact, if you need too much hand-holding from the boss, from the senior partners, then you get fired.
Yeah.
So they're paying you a lot of money, you're billing clients a lot of money, it's kind of a sink or swim profession.
Yeah.
Being a lawyer, and people expect you to assume a lot of responsibility at a very young age. I actually think it grooms you to be an entrepreneur because you're thrown into a lot of very complicated problems, and it's very much an environment where they're billing you out at a very high rate per hour.
Yeah.
And you're expected to problem solve from day one.
Yeah.
You're expected to, it's kind of most law firm environments are sink or swim.
Yeah.
So actually, I would say for a job, the legal profession really probably prepares you to do almost anything.
Yeah.
So if you look at a lot of presidents of the United States have been attorneys.
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs of very large companies that have grown into be like worldwide Fortune 500 companies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them come from a law background. So I actually would say that practicing law in general is, and I still use it to this day,
sure.
I would say that you're dealing with very complicated issues, just like you are as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're expected to move really quickly. You're expected to think on your feet. You're expected to come up with innovative solutions, produce like real high polished work product. So, I don't think it's your typical job.
No, I don't at all.
It was actually pretty good training to become a real estate entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, we talked about this before too. You said that a lot of the real estate transactions and deals that you do are complicated ones that you like navigating these waters. Do you think that's the lawyer background in you that
Yeah,
sort
absolutely.
but by doing that, you open up opportunities and you see opportunities that others don't and know how to navigate through those with contracts or what. I mean, there's many avenues to go about that, but yeah, that's very interesting. I have a bit of a curse. Whenever I go on vacation or go anywhere, or try to wind down, or even if I just go to the grocery store, I'm always seeing opportunity in everything. I have to constantly check myself because it's like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I have to like wind myself down. Do you find yourself in similar situations, like when you just sort of are out and like your mind is constantly working, like I can do that?
I did when I was younger.
Okay.
And what I really realized, and I think there's a time that you probably have to go through that.
Yeah.
But what I realized as I've become older and also I've been trained,
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to a lot of coaching on being an entrepreneur, formal coaching where I've paid to.
Do you currently have a business coach?
I do not right now.
Okay.
But I went through about 2.5 years of that, read a lot of books, did a lot of really structured coaching.
Just honed in on.
Well, if you look at a lot of the key books in business, one of them is Good to Great.
Yep.
And they really talk about the story of focusing and they talk about really being the best you can at what you do and not trying to be the jack of all trades and do too many things. And so I very clearly have realized through mistakes and through coaching that being really good at a couple things tends to make you more money and get you more success. I'd rather do 3 things well than try to do 20 things okay.
Yeah, what's the saying? Master of all trades, great, or
jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, master of none. Yep, I totally agree. I had that problem, or I do have that problem still, but I keep it in check. I have a business coach, and I talked about my business coach in the previous episode as well. I pay him to keep me in check, and sort of my whole strategy this past like 7 years of my career have been dedicated towards just kind of like, if here's your sort of scope of work, it's like a bowling alley, and you're bowling strikes every single time because you're taking 10 balls and rolling them down the lane, covering as much ground as you can within those areas. So you're not sort of bouncing around over here, in the outliers, that just doesn't make any sense, but if you keep it sort of strategic, it allows. But still, I'm getting even a little more fine-tuned as I go along. But Darryl helps me along the way as well, and keeps me in check, and he's fantastic about that. What are some motivators that keep you doing this? Like what motivates you to get up in the morning and just keep at it?
I'm still interested in it. It's still fresh. There's always a different design. There's always a different deal. I think I look at it, I like to do deals. And so there's a new deal every day that I look at, and there's a new possibility of putting something together every day, every week.
Yeah.
And, being a deal person, being a person who likes to stay pretty active and doesn't like monotony. Every day is a little bit different, and every day you're in the hunt to find a nice, profitable real estate deal.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of people out there that know you're a buyer and that feed you stuff, and I get calls too myself, but this guy probably gets hundreds of calls per day. How do you field those? How do you just sort of? I mean, that's got to be intense. Do you have people that help you field all these, sort of? Because I'm sure people throw all kinds of stuff.
Well, yes, good question.
And I've never seen you with assistants running around on your shoulder.
I have a lot of. I do.
But you haven't.
I used to have 50 people working for us.
I know. This guy, there's legends about this guy on the street back in the days, where he had a Wall Street type room with monitors everywhere. Buy. I mean, this guy is definitely a legend here in LA, and very impressive.
But in a nutshell, I think it does come back to trying to simplify things.
Yeah.
And so I probably, in finding deals, have maybe 20 or 30 key relationships that bring me deals. And I probably have 200 people that try to bring me deals.
Yeah.
And when I have people who don't know how to really determine whether a piece of real estate is a moneymaker or not, they can't call me again.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
I screen the calls, I don't take their calls, they go to voicemail.
Yeah. Do you have people, just in case there's a sort of diamond, in the rough there, look at those?
I miss deals every once in a while, so I just tune it out. There's 200 agents that between all of them, if I took all their calls every day, I would get 2 or 3 deals a year.
Yeah.
And I've just chosen not to get those 2 or 3 deals a year.
Well,
and so as I've gone along, I've got pickier on who I deal with. And so I pretty much deal with the superstars who can vet out a deal, who know what a good deal looks like.
Yeah.
And somebody who makes my time very well spent. Mm-hmm. And the people who waste my time also just getting older in this business. And like you say, what keeps me motivated of getting out of bed every day? If I were dealing with the rookie agents that were wasting my time, I would be ready to quit the business.
Yeah.
I'd be frustrated. I've been doing it too long. So I like to do the business, think of it as, maybe driving a car. I want to be driving at a really high rate of speed in my business, and the people who can hang,
that'll slow you down.
One of them, then that's kind of what I've gravitated to right now, and that's what keeps me lean and efficient, keeps me excited about the business. And the ones that are slowing me down and can't
speed bumps to get out of that
can't work at that kind of pace and at that kind of level, then I just keep them out of my world completely.
Yeah, I mean, my brother is also a fairly good-sized developer here in Los Angeles, and he's impossible to get a hold of. And I try calling him for advice all the time too. But Darryl is very reachable, even more so than my brother.
Only to you.
Twice, and that's
because you earned your way to be one of my top people that helps me out.
So why me? I know that we do a lot of business together. I do a lot of the interior design for you. I do a lot of staging and Airbnb and stuff like that. But and I appreciate this more than you know, having somebody like you in my life that gives me the time of day, that will pick up my call. But what do you see in me, or what did you see in me?
I think you earn it every week.
Okay.
So the way you earn it every week is, number one, you can't be a master of everything, even within real estate.
Yeah.
And I think with the design part of it, it's good to have someone like yourself that is more passionate about it than I am.
Yeah.
I'm probably more passionate about doing the deals.
Yeah.
I have some passion for the design. I like good design. But in terms of studying the art books and going out and looking at a lot of different types of colors and finishes and flooring. You have a passion for that.
I do.
And so you also have a passion of staying current with that. And so what you bring to my world is someone who's an expert on the design. You're a man of your word. You have high integrity. So you do what you say. You learn how to do things on a developer-friendly budget. I've met design people who have good design, but they don't know how to design on a budget.
Yeah.
So you've got a pretty good skill set. And when I met you, you had already acquired this skill set. So I don't know if that was from your brother,
A lot of it, yeah.
from having a passion for design, from probably working hard and looking at a lot of other product out there and seeing what you like and what you don't like. I think you also have a bit of a individual perspective on things, and I've hired you to
Yeah.
do a lot of different things, but I've hired you because you're good, and I gave you a chance because probably from your brother, and that's where I met you, so I just gave you a chance. So I give people chances all the time.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm really easy, and I have no qualms about just pulling the plug
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, there's been times where you could have very easily pulled the plug on me and
Can't pull up my speed. I'm sorry. One of the things I've learned with experience, and you're getting a lot of good experience yourself, and your brother has good experience, but one of the things I've learned from a lot of people, and it's hard when you're just newer in business because you do want to say yes, but it's really, I think the people who are the most successful, they learn how to say no.
yeah.
And you got to know how to say no.
I've seen
And you got to know the type of business lines or work lines that maybe you're not suited to do today. Maybe your company or my company would be suited to do it 2 years from now or 1 year from now. But when I look at success, and not just me, but I've read a lot of books, and I mean, Good to Great is a seminal book that talks about exactly this. You know, they actually mention that the companies that are really doing repetitive things over and over, and sooner or later they get a lot of scale to it, a lot of precision to it, which doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop innovating what you're doing, but they have like a core business line that they become really good at, and then they keep sort of perfecting that. And then they're also, those good companies also know the business lines that they're not the best at, and maybe it's either bring those business lines up to the same standard as the other things they're doing, or, which is sometimes hard, but just say no to those business lines and make more money in the ones that you're really good at. So I think that is a really important lesson.
I agree.
That I think it's hard to make money. I think it's even harder to keep money.
Yep.
And I think what happens is that a lot of people make money by, coming up with some really good ideas on things. And then I think a lot of people lose the money they make by, they're still 5 or 10 years into a business, coming up with new ideas. Not new ideas to perfect the things that are working, but like new ideas to do things that are not really core to the business.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, some of those new ideas and executing some of those new ideas, people go backwards. And now the money they made gets depleted by sort of not having the focus on the things that made them money the first time.
Yeah.
And maybe perfecting those, but going, hey, well, I started a business from scratch. I had nothing. Now I created something. And now every year or two, let me just keep creating something different and new. And sooner or later, I think that can be a recipe for getting a little bit in over the head, and also doing some things that deplete from the core of sort of what got you there. The things that got you there.
Yeah.
To be successful in the first place.
Going back to mentors, do you have mentors currently that you look to? I know you said you don't have a business coach currently, but do you have mentors that you sort of call up and ask for advice?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I would actually say, I would look at it a different way. I would say I have more really smart peers.
Okay.
Your brother being one of them.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily look at your brother as a mentor, but I look at your brother as a really smart peer.
Yeah.
Who's on my level, and your brother's an amazing developer. he also knows certain parts of the business that I don't know as well. And I know certain parts of the business that he doesn't know as well. So I have multiple really smart, I would almost say peers rather than mentors.
Do you feel like you have to kind of play, like dance with these people when you talk? I mean, and you and my brother are cut from the same, very similar cloth. You guys are very open, very candid, very like, you tell it how it is, and with each other, do you find that you like dance around things to make sure that you don't? Because at the same time, you guys are competitors in the same market, do the same thing, but both of you are all about the deal, all about Andrew, my brother, is really big in the actual developing and just like winning on that level. And Darryl's all about structuring the deal and taking those down. But at the same time, you guys are fighting for the same deals. Do you find yourself like playing like a little dance around things at times? Like just so you don't like give too much information to each other?
I think there's a little bit of that.
A little bit of that, yeah.
I don't feel that there's a lot of that. If there's too much of that, I would just kill the relationship.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And I think that a lot of people are just too afraid of giving away trade secrets.
Now, I do have people that could be peer-to-peer networking people that there's just too much lack of transparency, lack of being authentic.
Yeah.
That those relationships, I just let them go.
You just put them in a different pocket.
Well, I put them in no pocket. Okay. Sooner or later, I just don't have the time to nurture a lot of relationships that don't have some kind of, on the business side, don't have some kind of high degree of return on time to me.
Where do you feel I mean, you've been through crashes, you've been through, different markets altogether. Where do you feel that things are going? I know you're not Nostradamus, I'm not really asking you for anything like that, but this is a different kind of beast than other sort of times. Wouldn't you agree? Like the sort of atmosphere. What do you think? Where do you think it's going to go? Do you feel a crash? Do you feel things are getting too good right now that it's not going to be sustainable? Or I mean, how do you feel?
There's a lot to unpack on that question.
I know.
I'll take little bits and pieces.
Okay.
There's always going to be crashes in real estate. Yeah. Especially Southern California real estate. To predict the exact month or the exact year of a crash is almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I don't try to do it. I read a lot. I talk to a lot of people. I look at the signs, and maybe the signs are slightly different each crash, but small signs are a little bit different each time. But some of the big signs are very much the same each time.
Yeah.
And what I would say by that, like one of the big signs on a for sale real estate product that you are building to sell it is affordability.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, when you look at the price that you're selling homes in a certain market, so let's not even take Los Angeles as the market, but let's take West Los Angeles. West Los Angeles homes sell for more money than in the East Side, for example. Yeah. So if you look at West Los Angeles, the starter home that's been rehabbed, that's anywhere 2,000 square feet or more, is really selling at a starter price at $1 million.
That's crazy.
And so you have a price that's starting at $1 million for something that's nice on the West Side, and then you have an interest rate. And then you have what people make. And at some point, when those things start to get a little bit out of balance, and where maybe what people make, if you look back the last 5 years, I don't think of what people make who have high-paying jobs has gone up that much.
Yeah.
Not radically.
Not in relation to the...
Not in relation to the price of housing. The one saving grace is that interest rates have remained super low.
Yeah.
But that's dangerous because they won't stay low forever.
Yeah.
They might stay low for another 2 years. But at some point, you're going to see something that could cause interest rates to rise. And then just a natural progression. If the price of housing keeps rising, and then at some point you get an interest rate rise, I don't know if it's a year or...
Yeah.
It might be 5 years, but at some point you hit a level where the market can't sustain where it is and things have to correct. I also see one of the things that worries me in all the cycles, and it's definitely present right now, every seller who's trying to sell let's say an investment property, to me when I'm trying to buy a new project, and I know you and I talked about a project that you're looking to buy in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
I told you I knew the deal.
Yeah.
The guy keeps trying to get more money.
Yeah.
The sellers right now, no matter what you're buying, if you're buying in the Los Angeles metro area in a decent neighborhood, every seller wants to look at the comps and to beat the comps.
Yeah.
Every single seller. That's dangerous.
That is dangerous. I 100% agree
And
with you.
so if you start to think about it, yeah, they look and they can go back and see what their neighbor sold, just like the deal you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not the primest part of North Hollywood, and this guy's asking for a really aggressive price. Maybe you can make it work because now you're going to sell it at a higher price. But you got to keep playing that game. So then when that one sells, the next seller who looks at that recorded sale wants to beat that by $20,000.
Yeah.
And the developer's got to sell the property for more money than you do. And meanwhile, people's wages are not going up. So at some point where we are in this cycle, we're going to hit a wall for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about us hitting a wall. Just,
Matter of when.
I have no idea.
And I know we've talked about this before too, and you think that this could also happen. And you were around when the earthquake in '94. You were doing real estate at that time.
Yes.
What did you see happen then? Because I know that catastrophic events like earthquakes and natural disasters and things like that can very much just crush a market or put it stop it in its tracks. And what happened in that '94 quake that you saw here in LA? How did that go down? I mean,
the market just froze for probably 90 days.
Just froze completely. No sales, nothing.
Well,
closed, and
there were sales.
Yeah.
The amount of transactions that were going every month probably got cut in half. So there were still people who had to buy or sellers who had to sell, and they had to reprice. But the market almost froze in the sense that probably 50% of the transaction volume went away for probably 90 days. Because one of the things that happened, most people buy real estate with a mortgage.
Yeah.
And the mortgage companies didn't know whether they wanted to require earthquake insurance. And so there was literally a period of time when they said, you know what, this loan that's in underwriting, that's in an earthquake zone now, in the middle of LA, we don't know if we want to change our rules.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put this loan on hold. We're just put all these loans on hold. And we'll make exceptions. So if a buyer wants to put 40% down payment, we'll let them close because we're not worried about it.
Yeah.
But if a buyer wants to put 10% down payment, maybe we as the mortgage company are at a lot different risk than we realized, because we realize people don't have earthquake insurance, and if people are coming in with small down payments, we got a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And so maybe we want to change the whole policy. And so that just slowed down the whole market. And then I think a lot of buyers were spooked, not only by the market, but a lot of buyers were dealing with situations. They had damage at their house. They had damage at their apartment. So I think it also, one of the things I see, I'm going to sort of use an analogy, the winter of 2019 that we just finished, we've had more rainy weather than I can remember in probably 20 years. I mean, it was one of the rainiest winters.
Yeah.
It rained probably 3 times a week all winter, heavy rain. Well, the people in Southern California who are out looking for homes, it probably took 20% of the home buyers out of the market completely. Just they didn't want to deal with going out in the rain, dealing with traffic, dealing with just, looking at slogging through new homes when it's just terrible weather. Yeah. So that slowed down the market, and I think the mood when we had the earthquake, it was very similar.
Okay.
The mood just wasn't really there.
Yeah, I feel that.
People signing 30-year mortgages and going, wow, I can sign a 30-year mortgage, and then my house can get destroyed by an earthquake.
Well,
and
plus there's a lot of
I could
uncertainty.
lose a lot of money.
A lot of uncertainty for
Right.
buyers too. Like they're like, okay, well, what does this mean? Why are things slowing down? Why is there so much in the market? Like, are we at the top? Am I buying something that's not going to be worth that? You know?
Yeah, and then maybe also, good point. Maybe the market's going to reset because of this earthquake, and if I wait 90 days, prices will start coming down more.
Yeah.
So I think there's a sort of a compounding effect when these major events happen. It's not just that, the people were directly affected by it. Their apartment was directly affected by it, but it's more of it could cause a different psychology in the market that needs a little time to heal. And the Northridge earthquake, I think over a period of maybe months, I don't know if that was 3 months or 6 months, the market slowly healed and it came back to normal. But there was a period of time when the market was erratic.
Yeah. In 2008, I personally, me and my brother had an import business, and it fell by the wayside, and so did I in that process as well at that time, because we went really big. I was fortunate enough to have something like that happen to me when I was only 28 years old, and not later in life. I learned a lot of lessons from that. What do you think that people can learn from people like you and myself that have been through a really bad sort of market? How did you make it through, and what advice would you give to people to make it through one of those crashes? Because it's really just a matter of time. I don't want to be playing the scare tactics and things like that, but how do you make it through? What do you suggest somebody do to protect?
Well, there's a lot of things that you do, but one, I think, is diversify your business a little bit. So in real estate in particular, when you have a percentage of your properties that you're holding long term, those properties help you ride the storms, because generally the rental market traditionally doesn't get impacted as badly as the for sale housing market.
Yeah.
Right now, I think in our city, in LA, there's a tremendous shortage on the rental side of apartments that are in move-in ready condition in nice neighborhoods. And so I feel that diversification is one of the things that helped me survive and will help me survive the next downturn, where I don't have all of my deals or all of my money tied up in for sale housing projects, where if the market slows down and these crashes, a lot of times you can't time exactly when they come. So a lot of times it's the exact month or year comes as a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
And then if you have too much of your business geared to a more speculative real estate orientation, where almost everything is a for sale product, then that's dangerous. So in the 2008 downturn, I had a lot of rentals, and that helped me weather the downturn. So I would say on a business side, one of the key things is diversification and not getting in over your head in terms of you're taking so much risk in that all your money is on all these for sale housing projects, and if the market has a blip, you're going to be in trouble. And then the other side, I would say, is emotional, psychological. And as I do more business and also look at people who've been successful, and I consider myself one, are also people who don't freak out emotionally and psychologically when there's bad news. And you realize that out of 100 times, 90 times out of 100, you can navigate through the bad news and the bad market, and you'll get through the other side. You have to force yourself not to overly obsess on bad media, and the media tends to hype things up and make it seem more extreme than it is. So from a psychological standpoint, what I see is not overreacting to once the media sort of turns against real estate. It always does. We always have these cycles, and when we have these cycles, the media turns against real estate for a while, and there's some healthy things about that. Usually now there's an adjustment to the market. And now if you're a developer, sooner or later you can start buying deals at good prices again, because sellers have more realism. But definitely, I think being balanced in your life and being balanced in, where it's just not all you're believing the media and believing the negativity of, once the market goes bad, there's a lot of negative energy in the air. And so I think part of it is to be mature enough and also have a good network of a network of people who've gone through downturns before and being strong enough emotionally and mentally, knowing that you're probably going to get through it. And it might be painful, but you're going to get through it. And there's actually a lot of opportunity on the other side of these downturns.
Yeah.
And so I think it's keeping a balance of just knowing these downturns are part of real estate in Southern California. Anybody who thinks that downturns are not part of real estate in Southern California shouldn't be in the business.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be the case.
As a business owner, I always feel like I'm a firefighter putting out fires. I mean, that's most of what I do is filling buckets and throwing buckets on things to put them out, and that's just the life of a business owner and entrepreneur. Okay, so in addition to the advice you've already given, what would be some advice that you would recommend people if they don't know nothing about real estate, or it doesn't even have to be real estate related? What would you give advice to a person who has that entrepreneurial gene that wants to scratch that itch and sort of take their ideas or do something? Like, what advice would you give them? I mean, you already gave a really good book advice, and I'm sure you throw
to get mentors who are entrepreneurs. I think are really important to. So when I see it's mentors and then peers, I'm more into peers right now because I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think most of the people, I've done a lot myself, so most of the people are my peers rather than a mentor relationship. But I would say someone who wants to get started is finding good mentors who've been in the business that you're looking at, and multiple, not just one. What I find, there's lots of different ways to do business. And you might find a mentor that has a particular way of doing business, and there's 5 or 10 other ways of doing the same business. But if you have a mentor that maybe has a very structured way and a very maybe mathematical way of doing things, but you don't think that way, you might think that you're not suited to that business because you don't think of things like your mentor, but maybe you need 5 mentors, and you realize that there's different personalities and there's different ways to go about running the business that you're trying to run. And a lot of times that flavor, you can borrow a little bit from this mentor and a little bit from that mentor. And if you have multiple mentors, you have a better shot of borrowing a little bit of the best approaches that you want to use from each of them. So I think starting out, having really good mentors is really important. At the same time, however, I think being an entrepreneur is being able to walk your own walk and think the way you think.
Very, very much so, guys.
At a certain point, you're taking on something with maybe a slightly different vision on maybe how that particular industry or business has been run the last 10 years. And sometimes having a fresh perspective is you see something that the older established companies miss.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the things I like about a relationship. You're younger, you're more in tune with the social media, you're more in tune with some of the newest, latest trends, more so than me, and I still want to keep on those trends in my business. So it's important for me to get that young, fresh perspective that you have. And so that's one of the reasons that I get out of the relationship. I certainly get something out of the relationship.
And you know how much...
It's not a one-way
street. It means so much to me too. Like when I'm walking with Darryl Properties and, he's really taking notes and really, listening to me and my advice and, I'm very much like him in the way that, I say it like it is, even if sometimes it's hurtful or not something that somebody wants to hear, I'll still say it. And some people really appreciate that and others don't. And, honestly, it's a lot greater, the amount of people that do appreciate it that don't. So I'm going to keep doing it. I do have to bite my tongue a lot of times in business. But, with Darryl, I feel comfortable telling him these things. And he really, does value my advice. And that means a
absolutely. From a design
that means a lot to me.
standpoint, yesterday you were telling me about this art that you bought.
Yeah.
And you were excited about it, and for all these different reasons. And it's having that passion. You may not even know that you're learning, but you're learning because you're curious on, let me look at this new art, let me talk to this person who's doing something a different way, let me look at how this other developer might have put together these finishes, and let me take note of that, and also let me see what's new. You go to the trade shows. I know you said you go pretty much every year to a lot of the major trade shows, and you put an energy at those trade shows. You talk to a lot of people, you see a lot of product, and you travel internationally, and even there, I'm sure you're staying at a hotel and you go, wow, I can borrow this idea.
Oh yeah.
And that idea, or this color, or this finish, or this type of tile. So I think that you definitely are, from a design standpoint, you're a valuable person to a developer like me, myself.
Yeah, thank you. How important is timing? I know that, like, when for me in my sort of ventures and investments and sort of opportunities that I've seen, I don't skip a beat. If I see something, I'm jumping on it immediately. I don't want someone else taking what's there. I don't want anybody else's hand in a cookie jar. How important is timing? And can you tell people, like, when you find a deal, like, you know where I'm going with that, like.
So timing on finding a deal?
Well, like on acting on it. And like, a lot of people, they just talk about it, but they don't be about it. Like, to be an entrepreneur, you have, and to be a successful business person, you have to act.
So
acting is everything.
I would use more of a tough love answer to that one. And say that you can't teach that.
That's true. Yeah.
And I had someone who was one of my mentors when I was younger, and he had a phrase, and it was pretty interesting. And he would call it fire in the belly.
Yeah.
You can't put that spark into someone.
You can lead a horse to water.
But in other words, one of the things I would say, everybody should not be an entrepreneur.
It's true. Yeah. Only recently has it even been glamorized.
Right. Everybody should not be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And so I think if someone doesn't have knowledge, but they have the fire in the belly and they have the spark, and they're reaching out to mentors and they're reaching out to learn, then to me, they're totally set up to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, when you're trying to put the spark in them, I would actually argue to not put the spark in someone who doesn't have it, and go, hey, you ought to go to school, and you ought to, even if you want to make a lot of money, you have a very structured way that you're going about it, and the way that you think and the way that you're wired, it's not like the entrepreneurial DNA. Yeah, you ought to go to school and become an attorney. You ought to go to school to become an engineer. Yeah. You can go to school and you can make a lot of money. You can be a doctor.
Yeah.
And it's I think there's a lot of doctors who are entrepreneurs who decide to start their own practice and go their own way, but probably the majority of doctors, they learn how to perform a certain type of procedure, and they go join a hospital, and they have a career doing that procedure, and they make pretty good money. And the hospital is the entrepreneur. They're the worker. So I think also it's dangerous to try to make everybody an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's lonely too. Being an entrepreneur, being a business.
Financially, if you're not set up to do it, and deal with the
swings,
ups and downs. And also, I think one of the things I see of going through a few downturns, I think the people who are successful being entrepreneurs, it's in their DNA. They sleep at night through the problems. And I think there's other people, I saw it, and I think it happens in every downturn. There's people in their first one, they freak out. Yeah. And they toss and turn, and they can't sleep. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they're getting divorced from their spouse because their spouse goes, well, you're irritable, you're not the same person, you're freaking out, and you're snapping at me, and you don't like to do the same things you want to do, you're a mess. Unfortunately, these downturns, they can be unknowingly stressful. I mean, even the people who are set up to geared to deal with the stress, but some people they freak out, and I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think there's just certain people who are just built differently, and then when you look at it, maybe you can go back and go, should that person really have been an entrepreneur? Maybe they would have been a better engineer.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had my own hustles.
Working at a company.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are not people who should be entrepreneurs.
Is there anybody else in your family built like you that is also an entrepreneur? Because it's only me, my brother, and my family that are built like this.
In my extended family, yes.
Yeah. So
I have a cousin who was one of my mentors.
Okay.
Older cousin who was a very successful entrepreneur who graduated from business school and is about 10 years older than me, and started a bunch of biotech companies.
Wow.
Let me say this: he became like the president and CEO of a couple different biotech companies. I think he went out to work at a pharmaceutical company in the early days, and then a lot of pharmaceutical companies splintered, and maybe this was probably about 20 to 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Where the big companies people started breaking off from the big companies to start companies around different drugs and different applications. And so you talk about timing, but I think his career was at a point in timing where he had an MBA, he knew the industry, and he had all these opportunities to go with these smaller entrepreneurial companies where he had stock options, and he was really an entrepreneur. He had a stake in the business.
Pretty cool. What sort of hobbies do you have? When you're not doing real estate, what do you find yourself doing?
I like to go to basketball games. I'm a season ticket holder with the Clippers.
You took me to a game. It was fun. By the way, I'm returning that favor this year. I have Rams season tickets. I'm going to take you to a Rams game.
Sounds good.
It'll be fun.
I like to surf. Get in the ocean.
That's right. You go a lot too.
Yeah, definitely try to get out there 2 to 4 days a week.
That's awesome.
It's just good to be in nature, and it's kind of an escape from the real estate world of fast pace and stress.
Do you turn things off when you're out there?
I have to.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you're out in the water and the waves, and you your body automatically has to kind of turn a lot of the. You don't have a cell phone out there.
Yeah.
And
do you find yourself? Do you have surfer friends that you go out there with, or is it just sort of a solo kind of thing?
Both. A lot of my friends are surfers, but I go so frequently. A lot of times I'll just pop in. I'll fit in an hour at lunch, or hour at breakfast, or an hour in the morning, or an hour at lunch, or an hour after work. But I do have.
I know Santa Barbara was a big surf spot. A lot of my friends are surfers up there. Were you surfing then too?
Yeah.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I know there's some good breaks up there. I have a lot of friends.
Yeah. Also like to travel.
Yeah.
Like you, yeah.
Anywhere cool that you've been recently? Or
just kind of some local San Diego trips and Santa Barbara trips recently.
Have you been back to the campus at all?
I think they changed the name to Four Seasons, but I go to the Bacara Hotel.
Oh, okay.
That's north of Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Probably at least once a year. Go up there.
Yeah, it's so
it's
beautiful.
A good getaway. Yeah.
I know you mentioned Good to Great books, and he's given me a ton of book recommendations in the past, and I've read them all or listened to the book on tape. What do you recommend? What are your go-to books? Because I'm a big believer in business books and getting knowledge from those.
I'm kind of unconventional in the sense that I'm not a guy who's going to read a book 5 times.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote Good to Great, when he puts out another book, I'll read it.
Yeah.
I think Good to Great is a seminal one. I read what I like.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah. And I'm not at a point where I have like a really structured reading schedule. It's more me just kind of seeing what I like. And in my network group of my peer group, what I will do a lot of times is ask, hey, are you reading any books that are interesting?
Yeah, I always do that.
And so there seems to always be some book that I want to read and that other people in my peer group speak highly about. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I think go about it.
Retirement. Would you ever even consider retiring, man? Or is that something that you even want to do, or are you going to? Because I don't even think I can retire. I think I'm always going to be doing some sort of investing, or I'll have some sort of. I'll be that old man with 50 companies that just sort of, have them in place when I'm not needed as much. But do you feel that same way, or
yes.
Are you? Yeah.
I think I want to work less.
Well, yeah.
And I want to create a lifestyle maybe where I'm working 10, 20 hours a week, but I'm involved in investing I like investing in real estate. I'm certainly holding a fair amount of rental properties that I intend to hold for the long term, and even acquire more long-term properties. So to a certain degree, you're involved in that.
Yeah.
But in terms of doing speculative for sale projects, there'll be a point when I'll probably lose interest in that.
Yeah.
And really concentrate more on assets that I'm building or rehabbing to keep in a long-term portfolio. And also partnering with other younger people that are working the 50-hour weeks and 60-hour weeks, and putting my money with them and letting them be the person that's working the insane hours, and me looking at it more as a high level and mentoring, being a sounding board for them or a mentor for them. But so I think there's a transition from working full-time to working part-time. That's what I see. I don't see retirement, but I see a transition from working full-time to working part-time.
Well, let's turn to the property that we're in right now. This is a small lot development of Darryl's, 11 units in Mid-City, and what are 3 bedrooms, 3 baths each? Is that what these are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so I did all the staging for him here at these properties. We have 4 model units currently staged. How many of these have you sold so far?
So we've got 9 of them sold.
9 of them sold. 9
2 of them are still on the market, but on those 2, I have a couple of different offers.
So it could be sold.
So it's probably going to be sold out within the next week or 2.
That's fantastic. And his agent on this property is Grant Linscott. I call him the small lot ninja because he's Mr. Small Lot here in LA. He really gets things done. He knows how to navigate these waters and how to get sales closed. And I know that Darryl's used Grant on a few other jobs in the past, as had a lot of other developers that I work with. We're going to do an episode with Grant at some point in the future too. He's a wealth of knowledge on the real estate side. How has your experience been with Grant?
It's been really good.
Yeah, you find him, his professionalism and his sort of ability to get these things closed. I know
Absolutely.
When it comes to, your experience with I'm sure you've gone through hundreds of real estate agents that you've worked with, and
quite a few.
What traits in real estate agents do you feel are like winning trades? Because I know that people just think, you put it on the market and it sells, and you show it. It's so much more than that. It's so much more. What are you looking for when you interview?
Well, at this point, I'm looking for a team.
Okay.
Which is one of the things I like about your company. Yeah. It's not just you. You've got a team behind you, because I'm doing volume. And so with Grant, the realtor, he's got to be able to sell not just this 9-home project, but I've got this 11-home project.
Yeah.
I've got other projects that he's got to deal with. And so if I have someone who doesn't have a team, even though they're great, they can't keep up with me.
And that's a mistake that I see a lot of investors and developers make, is that they want that person that they're hiring to do all the work, which is just ridiculous, because the strongest people out there, realtors, are a team of people, and it's not just Grant. If you ask Grant, he's gonna, he's a very modest person. He's gonna tell you it's his team, and he's absolutely right in that respect. Like, you have to have a team of people that are just go-getters, and Grant definitely has that. So
I think that's one thing about him. I think he's got fire in his belly. Yeah. Actually, I would say
he does.
I look for it now with almost every major vendor that I hire.
Yeah.
Hey, are they passionate about what they do? And if they're not, then for the most part, I'm trying to find someone who does have passion in what they do. So I think Grant, just like yourself and like me, he has a lot of passion on what he does. He wakes up every morning. He enjoys what he's doing.
Yeah, he invests too.
You can tell that
he does a lot of investments of his own, and he gets all aspects of it.
Yeah.
Which, like what you said earlier too, and one thing I've heard from a bunch of other people that I work with, I don't just design, I don't just spend my clients' money and try to design something that's just so amazingly beautiful. You got to take into consideration the budgets and the sort of sale prices and things like that, and design to those. And I do feel that's one of my stronger suits in interior design, is because I also am an investor, and I get
Absolutely.
I get that.
And your brother is a developer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And you listen.
Yeah.
Well, some people, I've had other designers that they really don't listen.
Yeah.
And you tell them what you want, and you say, well, it's a combination of design and budget. And what they hear is, hey, you've got unlimited budget and you design what you want.
Yeah.
And then after so many of those experiences with that person, you realize you can't work with that person.
Yeah.
So I think you're looking for a team player who's not just out to do things the way they want to do it, but to be a team player and to interact with the team, including the developer,
Yeah.
to try to make the developer successful. So I think you've done that well. I think Grant Linscott has done that well.
What is the price point, the average price point of these ones that are selling here?
The average price point's right around $1 million.
Okay. Yeah, and that's basically what you were saying earlier. Like nowadays,
$1 million starter home.
yeah, I mean it's wild to think that, but at the same time, I mean it does make sense, and it's also becoming a very vertical living type situation in Los Angeles. You see a lot of, I mean, these are 3 stories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 stories. And he's been doing this one. I don't believe this doesn't have roof decks, but you usually put roof decks in addition to the 3 stories that you do.
Yeah.
Was there a reason why you didn't do that with this one?
There was. It was just the site was a little tighter than normal. We just decided to put more homes that were a little more vertical.
Yeah.
And it was sort of an architectural decision that we made on this particular one, not to have a roof deck.
Okay. He really does a good job at these small lots. A lot of developers that I work with, they skip a lot of beats and they just really do cheap stuff. And there's a way of doing it that's not going to break the bank, but that adds that little more flair to it. And we're going to walk you through a couple of these properties and show you what he did and what sort of makes what LA is now and what you have here and what the products look like and what an average $1 million home in Los Angeles is now.
Right. Well, you helped create the look in the sense that the staging is a big part of it, and now I'm starting to use you for more than staging, where you're helping me pick some of the design elements, and
So we'll be doing some deals at some point soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I keep throwing them my way.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, Darryl, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you giving me the time today. You have such a wealth of knowledge. I just had to interview you and had to get this on tape, and I really, truly appreciate it. Guys, remember, design, invest, and repeat.